So when it comes to guitar riffs, there are instantly a list of guitar players and bands we as guitar players automatically go to list off the best riffs ever written. But one band that always gets overlooked when it comes to the guitar riff is definitely Oasis. Now, whether you love them or hate them, it's hard to dispute that Oasis have some incredible songs, and in the 90s, they actually did a lot for the guitar industry. They revolutionized a new style of music and basically inspired thousands and thousands of people to pick up the guitar for the first time. And in this video, I want to show you 5 classic Oasis guitar riffs and one riff that is an underrated gem in their catalogue as well. This lesson is brought to you in partnership with musicradar.com. Down below in the description of this video, you will find a link over to their website with an article that I wrote to accompany this video. Inside that article, there's just a little bit more information about each of these riffs and all the stuff we talk about in this video. So please check that out as well. It's a really great resource to accompany learning the riffs in this video. So gear-wise in the video, I'm going to be using this Stanford Guitars Crossroad Thinline 30, which is a fully hollow guitar loaded with P90s. And this is plugged into the Poly Effect Ample, which is a new pedal which profiles different amp sounds. And I'm using a profile of an orange Retro 50 for all the tones in this video. So the first riff we're going to check out is the classic riff from the track Cigarettes and Alcohol, and it sounds like this. So this riff, as you can see, has its roots in blues playing. So this is very much like a typical 12-bar blues style idea that you might play. The riff starts off with that sort of pattern. We're playing on the low E string here, with the 2nd and 4th fret of the A string being alternated back and forth between, as well as palm muting the middle note each time. So I'm playing the 2 strings together on the mini chord, followed by that single note. Then I'm playing the 2nd fret on the A and D strings together, the palm muted low E once more, and then that little double stop once more. And then the 4 with the open low E once, and the 2 on the A with the open low E twice more. So it's sort of like a 12-bar blues thing, but with a little bit of a movement in the middle. And then we're doing a short run, 3, 2 on the low E, open E power chord. So that's the first pass of the riff. Now there's 3 passes to this. The first 2 are exactly the same, so it's going to sound like this. On the repeat of this riff, we're actually skipping over the first beat. When we play this riff for the first time, we actually play that E power chord on the 1 beat. But in that repeat, because we're playing it where that little rundown is, that actually falls on the and of 4. So we actually hang over the 1 beat and come back in on the and of 2 with that open palm muted note. So it'll go like this. So there's a little skip there. Then the third repeat of this riff has a different ending. It starts the same. Then we go into that part. So the first part is exactly the same. So when we get to this point, we change. So instead of going like that, we're actually staying on that E power chord and hitting it 4 times. Then I'm hitting this double stop here on the 4th fret of the A and D strings. Now it's quite important we hit this with the 3rd and 4th fingers, because our middle finger needs to go to that 3rd fret, because we then go into this picking phrase, which is the open B, the 3rd of the G, the open E, the open B, the 3rd of the G again. This actually comes from a chord called an F sharp 11, which is like an F sharp bar chord with an open B and E string, but we're not playing the low F sharp note. So this is a slightly tricky end to the riff, because you do have to get those two fingers in that exact place to set you up for the chord. And then we go to an A sus2 chord. The second riff I want to show you is quite similar to the first riff in that this also has a strong blues theme through it. And this is the riff for the song Some Might Say. The riff sounds like this. So again, this riff is very, very blues based. We're playing the same sort of blues pattern, but this time on the D and G strings. The D is our open string, and the G is where we're playing the 2 and the 4. We're alternating between the 2-note chords and the single open palm muted note in the middle. Except on that last one, we're actually playing the open and 4 together and the open and 2 together. Then in the second bar, we continue that blues theme, but we're just playing both notes together at all times. There's a little pause before that happens, so it sounds like this coming out of the first bar. Then we're playing an open A, and we're going into a B power chord. But when you do this, you want to actually make sure your index finger is barred across all the strings, because what we want here is a B sus2 chord. Because we're actually going to be picking some notes around that chord. When we're in that B sus2 chord and we've hit the power chord twice, we're picking the B string twice, the G and D, and then the B, G and D. So up to that point it sounds like this. Then we're going to a 2nd fret power chord on the low E string. We're playing that and sliding it to the 3rd fret and then hitting that once more. But make sure that index finger bars across all the strings because we need to pick the 3rd fret on the high E and B strings. Then we're going to a D sus2 chord, which is a D major chord with the open high E string. Playing that. That comes straight after those 2 notes that we play. Then we go into this picking pattern, which is B, G, E, B, G, B. And then for the final part of the riff, we're playing an A chord, but we're playing this slightly different to a regular A major. So you want to bar across the 2nd fret of the D, G, and B with the index finger and play the open low A as usual. And the reason we're doing this with a barred first finger is because we're going to be using 2 other fingers to add some extra notes. The middle finger is going to be going on the 3rd fret of the B string, and the 4th finger is going to be going on the 4th fret of the D string. So we're going to be playing... So I'm doing the A twice, adding the extra 2 notes twice, then the A, extra notes A, and then 2 hits with the extra notes. So there's a lot of different parts to this riff. There's the blues part that you play at the start, there's some chords with some picked lines, and then you have that kind of Keith Richards style shuffle thing at the end there as well. So there's a lot to pack into an 8-bar riff. The third riff I want to show you is another really cool riff, and this is probably one of the most typical rock guitar riffs you might find in Oasis's catalogue. This is from the track In the Bushes. So this is a really fun riff. It's quite simple. There's no chords, there's no bar chords, nothing really weird at all. It's just a bunch of single notes, and most of them are open, which is quite nice. So starting out with 3 open low E string notes. Now you'll notice I'm playing a picking pattern here which helps me to keep the flow of this. So I would recommend the picking pattern that I use, but if that doesn't work for you, you can try your own variations. So I'm doing down, down, up for that first part. Then The second part is 3 on the low E, 2 more open E's, and then the 7 of the A. Now again, I would recommend alternate picking, so it'll be down, up, so you actually hit that 7 with an up. That 7th fret note we're holding just over the start of the next beat, and then we're playing open 5, open 7 on the A string. I would recommend starting that with an upstroke. So when you actually hit that 7th fret final note, that is the start of the 4th beat, which starts with a strong downbeat. So I recommend that picking pattern for playing this. I'll play that slow so you can see my picking hand. If that picking pattern doesn't work for you, you can just try your own variations, but that is the riff. It's really simple and really fun. The 4th riff we're going to check out is another iconic one, and it's got one of those iconic Oasis chords in there, and this is the riff for the track Supersonic. So this riff contains that iconic F sharp minor 11 chord that just instantly conjures up the sound of this song. We're actually playing the chord without the F sharp in the bass. We're actually starting from the C sharp note here on the 4th fret of the A string. So what we're playing is an arpeggio of that chord like so. So I'm playing the chord from the A string, A, D, G, but then I'm playing it backwards from the high E. When I get to the A, instead of playing that C sharp note, I'm actually playing an open A string. Then I'm playing an A power chord and a B7 chord. But instead of playing the full chord, I'm just playing the A, D, and G strings. In between that change, I'm just playing the A string open. And then right before we go back to that F sharp minor 11 chord, you're just playing the A and D strings open just gently. So you don't want to dig into those too hard. Just acts as a little buffer into the chord part. So there are 4 repeats to this riff in total, and we're actually playing the exact same thing on the first 3 times, which is this. Then on the 4th time, we're doing this. So there's a different ending. It starts off the same with the A to the B7. When you're in that B7, playing a little single note run, we're bending the 2nd of the A, playing it open, and then the 4 on the D. So that only happens on the 4th repeat. And that is the riff for the track Supersonic. Really fun. 4 repeats of the same thing with a slightly different ending. And the 5th classic riff I want to show you is from the track Slide Away. This is an absolute iconic Oasis track, and there's a really cool arpeggiated chord progression in the intro, which sounds like this. Now, on the recorded version of the track, there's actually another guitar strumming the chords underneath as well. So what we're playing here is an A minor 7 chord, playing it with this G note at the top. We're playing a G chord, and then this chord, which is an F major 7 sus2. So it's the 3rd on the D, the 1st on the B, with the open G and E strings. Now, we're arpeggiating these parts. Like I said, there are some strummed chords going on around this. So when you hear the track, it sounds like there's a lot more going on than just this, because what you're hearing is the interplay between the 2 guitars. So we're starting off with that A minor 7 chord with the G at the top. Now we're playing an arpeggio here, but we're also going to be playing a little run at the end of this arpeggio. So we're starting off by going A, D, G, E. That's all within the chord. Then the run we're playing is open E, first on the B, open B. At that point, I'm then reaching up with my little finger and playing the 3rd fret on the high E again, like this. Now that is where our G chord would be. So I'll show you something in a moment you can do to create the sound of the second guitar as well. That note's going to ring, and then we're going to that F major 7 sus2 chord. We're just arpeggiating that from the D string to the E. Now what you can do is, if you want to create the sound of the second guitar, where I play that single note there which represents the G chord, you can put a full G chord in like so. It's a little bit more work because you do have to switch to a full chord. But if you're playing this on your own and you want that fuller sound, you can play the full chord there instead of just that note. The second repeat of this riff follows the same rule, but there's a slight rhythmic change in the first bar. So instead of playing this, we're playing... So there's a slight different rhythm to that. We're playing the lower part of the chord twice. 2 straight notes, 1, 2. Then we're just delaying where that little run comes in. Other than that, it's exactly the same both times. The only thing that's changing is how we're starting each bar with that little rhythm change. The same rule applies on that second time. You can put the G chord in there if you want to. If you want that fuller sound, that will work just as well. Biggest thing to watch out for when playing this is that rhythmic shift over the A-7 chord, purely because the first time we're arpeggiating it, the second time we're giving it 2 little strums, but we're delaying where that little run is. So I'll just play that once more so you can hear the difference. So just nailing the timing of that second repeat is the biggest challenge in this entire riff. Now those are 5 classic Oasis riffs, but there's one underrated riff that I think everyone needs to learn from their catalogue as well. And this is from the track Cloudburst. Now this is a really cool riff because even though this features in an Oasis song, it's actually got a little bit of influence from, you know, there's a bit of a classic rock vibe to this. There's also a little bit of what you might see John Squire from the Stone Roses doing. So it's quite a unique riff actually. It's not really like anything else I've ever heard in the Oasis catalogue. This kicks in at about the 3.5 minute mark in the song Cloudburst, and the riff I'm talking about sounds like this. So it's definitely got a bit of a classic rock vibe, and it actually repeats for much longer than what I played it there. It's actually a riff that loops on for a little while. So this riff starts with a bar that we only actually play on the first repeat, which is 2 open low E strings, the 6 on the D, which I'm bending a semitone and releasing, and then the 7 on the A. Then we go into the riff's actual form. So starting on the 5th of the A string, I'm doing a hammer onto the 7, and then again on the D string, so 5 to 7 on both strings, followed by an open A. Then that bending phrase we just learned, we're doing the same thing, but this time on the G and D strings. So it's the 6 on the G with the bend, land on the 7 on the D. Then the riff moves for different string pairings. So now we're actually coming to the 5th of the A string. So it's the same riff, but we're bringing everything to a lower string. So in this case, it's 5 and 7 hammer-ons on the E and A strings, open low E, then the bend is on the 6 of the D, and we're landing on the 7 of the A. That part there is actually what replaces the 2 open low E strings that we learned at the start of the riff. That only happens on the first repeat. So that happens, then we go into the hammer-on starting from the A, the hammer-on starting from the E, the hammer-on starting from the A, the hammer-on starting from the E, and so on. The riff repeats itself. It's a really fun riff, and like I said, it's got a bit of classic rock in there. It's got a bit of a Stone Roses kind of vibe as well. It's quite different to a lot of other riffs you find in the Oasis catalogue, and I definitely think that's an underrated one as well, because you never really hear people talk about that particular riff. It's something that's quite different for Noel Gallagher's approach to guitar, and something I definitely think people need to check out, because it's, you know, it's quite unusual in the grand scheme of what we consider the Oasis sound to be. But yeah, there we go. There are 5 classic Oasis riffs and an underrated one. Let me know what your favourite Oasis riffs are down below in the comments. And don't forget to check out that link in the description to the article I've written to accompany this video over on the Music Radar website. It's a great resource for this video because there's just a bunch of information about these riffs and how to play them written out in full as well. Please check that out, and don't forget to let me know down below what your favourite Oasis riffs are, and if there's anything you think I've missed off this video, let me know that as well, because I'd love to know what Oasis riffs you guys are enjoying learning. Don't forget to hit that like button, and if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing as well. Thank you all so much for watching as always, and I'll see you very soon.